Hello, everyone. Today we are going to discuss the Aurelian tool. Actually, we discussed it in the first week, I think, if I remember correctly, right? But we did not get into details. Today we'll discuss in much more details about Aurelian tool, right? Which is very important and very useful. Now, but before that, we'll briefly introduce some terms or notation in graph theory, which will be very useful. Okay. So let me start with graph G. Normally, if we spell out vertex set and edge set, of course, we use V and E for vertex set and edge set. Sometimes we may just give a name of the graph. Then we use V of G to denote the vertex set, and E of G to denote edge set. Its edge set. Of course, for different graph, we give a different graph. The H is a graph, so then we'll denote V of H as its vertex set. Of course, similarly, we can use N of H to denote the number of vertices of H, M of H, number of edges of H. All right. Sometimes we use this one as a subscript. For example, we can do it in this way. All right. So this is just some notation which will make things more convenient. All right. Now there are some important operations about the graphs. Because graph contains two parts, vertex set and edge set. Both of them has a set, so we can do operation on these two sets. All right. So here I list three fundamental operations in terms of vertex and edges. So namely edge deletion, vertex deletion, and edge addition. So there are three fundamental operations. Edge deletion means we delete a set of edges from the graph. So E prime is a set of edges. We delete these edges from the graph. So notationally, we use G minus E prime to denote the resulting graph. And for syntactically, when E prime contains a single edge, we just use G minus E instead of G minus the set. Conventionally, we should use this one. All right. So that's edge deletion. Similarly, for vertex deletion, given a set of vertices, subset of vertices, we delete these vertices together with edges incident with these vertices. So we use this notation, G minus V prime. And similarly, when V prime contains a single edge, a single vertex, we just use G minus V instead of G minus set consisting of V only. All right. So there are two basic operations, edge deletion and vertex deletion. Of course, we can add edges. Given a subset of edges, we can add these edges to the graph. So then we use this notation G plus edges. Again, similarly, for a single edge, we just denote G plus the edge. Right? So these are three very basic operations. I will give you like to illustrate this. Okay, so this is graph G, right? This is graph G. Now, if I add two edges, say two edges, B1, B3, B3, B5. So that's a new graph. If I add two edges, I'm starting backwards now, okay? So these will be two new edges, B1 and B3, B3 and B5. So this is a new graph. I just add these two edges. All right. So I get a new graph. Say this graph give us a new graph H. I get a new graph. Now I can delete edges. So if I delete edges, H, maybe delete a single edge, V2, V5. It's a single edge. So what happens is I just delete this edge. So this edge is gone. All right. So I get a new graph. Now, if I keep deleting something in this graph, if I delete some vertices, say V1, V2, delete these two vertices. So what happens? Yeah, delete these two vertices together with all edges incident with these two vertices. Of course, when vertices are gone, these edges will be gone. If I delete this one, all these three edges will be gone. And delete V2. So that's the graph we are taking. Right? So that's very simple. So three basic operations: edge deletion, vertex deletion, and edge addition. All right. Now, in connection with these three operations, there are two important concepts called subgraph and induced subgraph. So we have G and a graph. Now, a subgraph of G is I just take any subset of vertices and edges. So this one is a subset of V, E is a subset of E. This is called a subgraph. So given a graph, I take some edges, some vertices, that's called a subgraph. So we obtain a subgraph actually same as deleting vertices and edges. So this one is same as obtained from G by deleting edges and vertices. All right. So by deleting these vertices and also these edges. So here to be so our subgraph is contained by deleting some edges and some vertices. That's how we obtain a subgraph. Okay, just as a set, a subset, we delete some elements. So here we delete some elements from vertex set, delete some edges from edge set, we get a subgraph. All right. So that's called a subgraph. For example, this is subgraph. So to form a subgraph, I delete some vertices edges. If I look another way around, like I take some edges, this gives me a subgraph. So I just take some edges. Away with the edge belong to the subgraph. So that gives me a subgraph. H is subgraph. So H is obtained from this graph G equivalently obtained from this G by deleting these vertices. I delete these vertices, then also this edge. All these blue ones will be deleted, so then I get H. So that's called a subgraph. So that's called subgraph. Another notion is called the induced subgraph. Induced subgraph. Induced graph means given a set of subset of vertices, the V prime is subset of vertices. I form a graph called induced subgraph notationally denoted by G bracket V prime. So that's a subgraph formed of induced by these vertices. So this one is a graph whose vertex set. So the vertex set exactly V prime is edge set. It's edge set V prime. That's exactly edges of G whose both ends inside V prime. So edge set is the both ends will be inside this is called induced graph. All right. Now, if we look at this example, if I use these five vertices, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, these six vertices as V prime. All right. Now, induce graph on these six vertices is not graph H. It also needs to contain this edge. The only difference is for induced graph, I need to include this edge as well. Because for this edge, both ends also include V prime. So that's called the induced subgraph. So that means for vertex V prime, the graph looks exactly the same as is in G. Partial graph may not. All right. But induced subgraph will look exactly the same as in G. In other words, this one is same as induced graph on V prime is exactly the same graph obtained by deleting vertices V minus V prime from G. So deleting vertices not inside V prime from G. Once we delete them, we get a graph that's exactly the same as induced graph on G prime. So these are two very important notions in connection with basic operation on edge vertex deletions. Right? Okay. And the question should be quite easy to see. So remember the difference for induced subgraph. All right. So there's don't forget induced subgraph. One more example maybe. Okay, so suppose that's part of the graph. So these are vertices V prime. Now the induced subgraph of V prime contain exactly the same structure as in graph. So we take everything inside the V prime. So if I don't take this edge, then it's not an induced subgraph. It's a partial subgraph. A subgraph. Subgraph sometimes called partial subgraph. If I don't take this edge, then I get a subgraph, which sometimes is called a partial subgraph. If I also take this edge, I get an induced subgraph. All right, so these are very basic concepts, which will be used when we discuss graph problem. It will make things more convenient in our discussion. Okay, so now we go back to our main subject, Aurelian tool. All right, so let's start with this puzzle. This called the Königsberg Bridge problem. So we have a rivers and the seven bridges. So this island, this maybe island or inland, whatever. There are seven bridges. The question is it possible to anywhere actually from your home? Actually, does not matter. Okay, suppose your home is here or whatever. The location actually does not matter. But you start from your home. You want to cross each bridge exactly once and return to your home. The question is it possible? All right. Before we get into discussion on this one, I want to spend maybe 2 minutes on the video to show you something in connection with this one. Oh, it's in Chinese, okay. So what you need to do is it's a polyhedral and ask you whether it's possible to travel along the edge of the polyhedral and visit each edge exactly once. Okay, I want you to look at the face of these people. Okay, I think that's enough. Okay. All right. Okay. Let me exit it. So let's see. Where is the sometimes suddenly it's full screen? Let's see. Okay. All right. So you get the idea of the puzzle. So what we have a note down. Oh yeah, this is your last year, maybe in algorithm course. Okay, I'll send you a link the time if you want to take a look. Okay. Now the point is, the program is called sorry, the sound I just adjusted. Now, the program is called the Super Brain. Okay. So really a lot of very smart people join the program, the TV show, and they show their super ability to do amazing things. All right. So my point is actually here it's I have to emphasize it's only an entertainment program. Uh, so that's a very difficult problem for their program. But after today, it's become really a problem for kindergarten. To us, it's a very trivial problem. Once we discuss Aurelian tool, all these problems we can solve it in seconds. It may take some minutes, but for these superb smart people, but for us, seconds will be good enough for us to solve these problems. All right. Once we have knowledge of Aurelian tool. Okay, so let's see what do we mean by Aurelian tool and how we can solve this problem. So how can we solve this problem? Of course, we're going to use graph theory to solve it. So first, we transform this one into a graph problem. So what we do, of course, let's see in this way. For this one, we'll create 4 vertices. So there are 4 parts. So we create 4 vertices. So this one part, one part, one part, and one part. Okay. So maybe we use A, B, C, D. Of course, you can try to work around. Usually, you will get frustrated if because after many tries you cannot get a solution. But then, can you say that it's impossible? It's not to guarantee that indeed that it has no solution, even after many tries, right? Perhaps I missed the one. So in order to answer the question, we just transform the graph into a problem. I put this graph into a graph problem. So there are 4 regions. So here is the A, B, C, D. All right. So each will be represented by a vertex. Then add an edge between 2 vertices if they are a bridge between them. So A and B, they are a bridge between them. Actually, 2 bridges. We have 2 edges. So A and B, a bridge. And B and C, one bridge. B, C, D. So instead of this setting, now we get a graph. Of course, in this case, it's a multi-graph. Because we have parallel edges or multiple edges. All right, now it will be much easier to work on this one instead of that one. So the question for this graph is it possible to have what's the problem for this graph? We're looking for a closed walk. So in order to solve this puzzle, we needed to find a closed walk. We walk around the edges. Again, we were using idea walking around. Like this week, we walking around in the graph. And on Monday, we'll walk around in the graph using edges. Again, we still using the same idea, walking around the graph. Okay, so we want to visit each edge exactly once. We're looking for closer walk. We can repeat vertices, but we cannot repeat edges. So it is possible. So once in this graph, it's easy to see it's impossible because if we look at vertex degree, 3, 3, 3, 3. All vertices of all the degree. Now, in general, if I have a graph or multi-graph, if I'm looking for a closer walk that visits each edge exactly once, what will be obvious necessary condition? Walk. All right. So if we're looking for a closer walk in a graph or multi-graph, in general, it can be multi-graph. And that uses each edge exactly once. What will be an obvious necessary condition? Maybe S conditions. It's very easy to see, of course, the graph has to be connected. Otherwise, we cannot do it, right? The first obvious condition is G is connected. So let's say give this one a name, G. The obvious condition is graph must be connected. If it's not connected, of course, we cannot do it. Secondly, if when we take a walk, once we go through a vertex, it will take out the two edges, come in, go out. Each time, come in, go out. So that means every vertex must be of even degree. So these are trivial, obvious necessary conditions in order to have such a walk. All right. Just very easy to see. Now, for this graph, we can conclude it cannot have such a walk because all vertices are odd. So this is, in order to have such a walk, all vertices must be even. So this one certainly not the case. So therefore, we know Königsberg related part has no solution at all. So from this graph, we can easily say it has no solution at all, right? Okay. Now, on the other hand, I give you a graph. We know that it does have a solution, doesn't have a solution. So if it does not satisfy these two, one of these two conditions, we can say there's no solution. And what condition it will have a solution? So what will be sufficient condition? So very often in graph theory, we have the following situation. In short, it's called the concurrence. That means the obvious necessary condition is also sufficient. Very often it will be the case. So for this problem, this necessary condition, it turns out sufficient condition. So this condition is also sufficient. These two is also sufficient. So this phenomena is called concurrence. Very often it happens in graph theory. Very often it's easy to see necessary condition, But on the other hand, it's not easy to see whether it's sufficient. And typically, one direction is trivial. Like to prove this necessarily is trivial. Another is positive. The sufficient may not be difficult. In this case, it's not difficult, but it's not obvious, not trivial. For some projects, it may be very difficult. All right. So here, what we are going to do is to prove that this condition is also sufficient. So that's a phenomenon called the clunkers, and it happens very often in graph theory. All right. Is there a question? Let me see. Okay. For that cancellation problem, you cannot. Even you do not return to your original. Okay, you also is it folks. Sorry, sometimes the video quality actually is because of the bandwidth. When a lot of students using it, the bandwidth reduced, so the quality is getting worse. All right. Now for that Königsberg bridge problem, even you do not return to the original starting point, you cannot do it. Later on we'll discuss when we can do it if we do not need to return to the starting vertex. All right. So in this case, what we are going to prove is the following theorem of Euler. And okay, an Euler Cohen graph is a closed walk that visits each edge exactly once. There are other names for Euler tool. It's called Euler cycle or Euler circuit. So you may see other names refer to the same thing. And a graph containing Euler tool is called Eulerian graph. Okay, then we call the graph Eulerian graph. Graph by this condition is called even graph. So the even graph is a graph where every vertex has an even degree. It's called even graph. All right. Now we're going to characterize Eulerian graph. Okay. So we're going to show that a graph, the graph can be a simple graph or multiple graph. It works for multiple graphs. So in general, G can be multiple graph. Multi-graph, sorry. Sorry, not multiple graph, multi-graph, sorry, okay. G can, in general, can have parallel edges or multiple edges. A multiple graph, sorry, a multi-graph is Eulerian if only if it is connected even graph. So we know this condition is necessary. Now we're going to prove it is also sufficient. So that means whenever G is connected and even, then we can always find an Euler tool. So in this case, our proof will be constructive. All right, so we're going to prove that whenever G is connected and even span, we always have an Euler tool. Okay. So we're going to show that sometimes people just say Euler tool instead of Aurelian. Euler, both ways. So what we're going to show now is, given such a graph, we can construct an Euler tool, an Aurelian tool. Okay, so let's see. Let's see, every vertex. You see every vertex of the different order degrees as well. Like this. Okay, so here are the connected graph. It's easy to see, right? I take a lot, you see it's connected. And every vertex is of even degree, so you need to check. I think every vertex is of even degree. So how can we construct an Aurelian tool? It may seem to be easy, but actually not. Okay, let me give you an example. A much simpler graph. All right. Now we walk around. So, but we need sometimes we have to be careful. For example, I walk around. So here I have a choice. I have three choices. If I do not choose correctly, I may not complete Aurelian tool. If I do it like this, I just get this cycle. You see, one have to be careful. Of course, for this one, we know that at this point, that's what we'll do, right? Well, that's what we'll do. We do things like this. Okay, then we get Aurelian of the wall that use at each edge exact one. Of course, in this case, because this graph is very small. In general, when graph is large, it's not easy to make decision when we have choices, which edge to take. Once I get in, which edge to take. It's not easy decision at all. All right. So how can we construct an Euler tool? The idea again is use induction. So we use induction on number of edges. On number of edges. All right. So what we'll do is arbitrate at any vertex. So just pick a vertex. So maybe this vertex. All right. So I keep on walking because each vertex has all the even degree. I can always go out unless I get back to this vertex. Because each time I take out two vertices, I keep on walking. Okay. It does not matter. I just keep on walking. Keep on walking. Keep on walking. Maybe okay. I don't care which edge I take. I don't know. I just keep on walking until I cannot. I complete and return back to this one. Or in the when I keep on walking, I can repeat vertices, or even without repeating vertex is all right. So I either form a cycle, simple cycle, or close the walk. Either way will work. Either way, it cannot matter. So can keep on walking until I can return to this one and cannot go out further. Or just If I just looking for a simple cycle, I can just return, if I return to this vertex, then I stop, right? So what I get, I will certainly get a cycle if I get back to this vertex. Otherwise, keep on walking. So in this case, we can keep on walking, then we get a closed walk. But regardless what we do, I can always get a closed walk, say closed walk instead of cycle maybe. All the same, okay? So we get a closed walk. So there is some edges. So there is some edges. Now what we do is delete these edges. So then consider the new block, the H equals this old block, delete edges of this walk. Again, we use this notation, edges of this walk. So similarly, if I use VW, denote the vertices of W. So that's edges of W. All right. So I get a new block. So if I delete these edges, I get a new block. So let me delete it. Okay, but not entirely. Just to show you something is gone. Okay, but still not fully deleted. All right, I get a new block. So what can we say about this new block H? In order to apply induction, we want this H to have same property as G. Basically, right? Some property is shared with H, then we can use induction hypothesis. So in this case, there are two important properties. One is connected, one is even. So certainly H is still an even graph because for each vertex, I take out the two edges. So you see, each will take out two edges, two edges, two edges, two edges, two edges, two edges. So it's certainly an even graph. But however, H may not be a connected graph. So we cannot use induction hypothesis to H because it may not be connected. In this case, I have two pieces, one piece here and one piece here. So I cannot use induction hypothesis to H to say that H has a Hamiltonian tour. Not Hamiltonian tour, Aurelian tour. Okay. All right. However, each component of H is connected. Right? Each connected component by definition is connected. So since each connected component is connected and also even, it's also even graph. So what we can say about each connected component? Each connected component is connected and even graph, connected even graph. So we know each component. So I'll give it a name, maybe HI. So HI is Aurelian. So each connected component is an Aurelian tool. Now we use induction hypothesis to each connected component. We get a closed walk that visit each edge of the component exact one. So for this one, we can have all from not keep on all tool like this. Okay, so this one also has one. So now what we are going to do is combine these tools with W, with W to form our tool. Okay. So what we do is to combine them. So let me illustrate how we combine them. So already it's just W goes in, go out like this. Get me, goes out like this. That's W. Or let me redraw it maybe. Too many lines. All right. So in W, we come in like this. In W, we come in, get out, gets out, goes out like this. So here for this component, we have a honor tool. So the blue one may go like this, go around. Now I will merge this one with this one. So what happens is once I touch the first one, remember the graph is connected. So this component must share a vertex with W. That's important because the graph is connected. So this component must have a vertex in common with W. Otherwise, the graph cannot be connected, right? Since it's connected. So once I reach a vertex here, so instead of using this edge, now I use blue one. On here, I go there, use this one. Merge them, then use this edge. So then this, and other tool here across the walk will be merged with this one to form a large walk. And similarly, this one will be merged, eventually merged into one closed walk. So that will give us our tool. All right. Okay. So that's a proof. But that's one proof. I cannot take that proof. That's one proof that this condition is sufficient for class to be Aurelian. But in fact, that will enable us to construct an Aurelian tool. However, this constructing actually is not easy because it's kind of recursive. I found this one first and have to find this one and find the one here. And in order to find this one, I find cycle first and break it down. It's not very easy at all. It will be much nicer if I can do it in a kind of online. Can I do it directly? Do not merging cycles, rather, or do not merging walks. Rather, each time when we make a decision, we decide which edge to take. Is it possible? For that part, it is possible. So let me tell you how we can do it directly instead of merging walks or merging cycles together. All right. So here I will give you a best way to construct an honor tool. Okay, I have to introduce one more notion. It's a very simple intuitive notion called the bridge. Or cut edge. All right. So once you see the name bridge, so intuitively, what does that mean? If I destroy the bridge, then will be disconnected. So that's the exact meaning of cut edge or bridge. All right. It's not like this. If I remove this edge, so this one is called the bridge or cut edge. Once I remove it, graph will be broken into two pieces. That's called the bridge. For example, this one is a bridge. Right? So in this graph, namely, this one is a tree. This one is a tree. Every edge is a bridge. All right. So every edge is a bridge in this graph. Okay. But technically, we have to be careful. Definition of bridge is not that whose deletion will break the graph into pieces, because the graph may have several pieces already. But for connected graph, an edge of the bridge, if its deletion will create a disconnected graph. But in general, what we should say is all right, so if the graph may be disconnected already, for example, this graph. So if I say removal of the edge will disconnect the graph, then any edge here, if I remove it, the graph into pieces. So we should pay our attention to connected components. In a connected component, if you remove an edge, it will break the component into two pieces, then it is a bridge. So in that case, this one is a bridge because that's one connected component. All right. With this notion, so now here is another way to form a Hamiltonian. Not sorry, I keep on saying Hamiltonian because that's the one we may discuss it. Aurelian 4 in the following way, when it satisfies two conditions. So just use this one for example. So what we do is start with any vertex. That does not matter, okay? So we use edges, keep on walking, use edges. And make sure when we choose edge, the edge is not a counter edge. So whenever the counter edge is not, always choose right? So what we do is once we take the edge, we regard this edge as being deleted. So once we take this edge, we regard this edge as being deleted. Now these two become bridges. Okay. The next edge we choose is not a bridge in the current block. So these two become, so this one is a bridge. We cannot choose it unless we have to. Okay. So later on we'll see. So these two, none of the bridge we can choose. And we can just go ahead. This one. Or that one does not matter. Now these two become bridges, so we cannot take it. So here, these two, none of them bridge, so can use it. Keep on walking, does not matter. Okay. Now this one become a bridge. In the blue block, all of them become bridges. So we cannot choose this edge, but all the edges are safe. We can choose this one. Now here, this one bridge, but here we have no choice. We have to choose it. Choose an edge that is not a bridge in the current block unless it's necessary, okay? Unless it's necessary. So no other choice. So we have just one more condition. So here, this one became bridge, but we do not have other choice. Actually, here already happened. We don't have other choice, so we have to take it. Take it. Now this one bridge, we do not take it, so we have to go like this. This one is a bridge, but we don't have other choice. We keep on going. So here, this one bridge, but this one, these are not bridges. So we do this. Now we don't have other choice, so just take this bridge. All right, so that will give us an Aurelian tool. Sorry, I think I overrun. I will stop here. And Monday, I will give you some very interesting applications of Aurelian graph and Aurelian tool. All right. Okay, I think that's it for today. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, any question or it's all right? Okay, so see you next week.